Video in SketchUp where we'll start building a small laneway suite and show you how the program works, how we use some of the short tools to draw walls and roofs, and slowly build a structure together. So we're going to start by learning how to just set up our file in general. So SketchUp is a surface modeler. Today we're going to build some walls and roof. And to do that, we have to learn a couple of tools. So feel free to grab a pen and paper to write down some of these short commands. We can draw by using short commands. Alternatively, we can go up to the top and manually click on the items we want to draw. But I find it's always faster, like AutoCAD and other drawing programs, to remember some of these shortcuts. So when we start drawing any kind of floor plan, we usually start with some kind of rectangle. So for us, we're drawing this first floor of a laneway suite. And we can do that by drawing a rectangle with a line. Start with the line tool, so L for line, or you can click on the pen tool up here. So L for line, we click to start the command, and we pull over, in my case, towards the right. And I want to make that line 8 foot long. So to make an 8 foot rectangle, or square, I go up my green axis, and I hit again 8 foot, enter. I go over 8 foot, enter. And I come back to that same first point. And SketchUp is a surface modeler. So as soon as we close a closed shape, it wants to fill that in and make a plane. So we can see that now those lines are connected, but it's just a flat plane in space. Imagine a piece of paper. To make that same rectangle, we can also hit R for rectangle, click, pull towards the right, and input 8 foot, comma, 8 foot, enter, and I get a rectangle. Now, units in SketchUp, the default unit is inches. So if I want to do a rectangle and keep it all in inches, I can write 9.6, comma, 9.6, enter. So same thing, if I use a tape measure, this is 8 feet wide, this one is 8 feet wide, and the one we drew with lines is also 8 feet wide. So anytime you have feet and inches, so let's make a rectangle that's 8 foot 6 by 8 foot 6, so 8 foot 6 inches. We write 8 foot 6, comma, 8 foot sign 6. And you'll notice in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you have the dimensions, and that's what you're inputting. So that's over and up, and hit enter. Okay, so thing to remember here is this L for line, R for rectangle or square, and we have dimensions are inches is the default unit, and if you want feet in inches, you have to write the foot sign, little tick, and then the inches beside it. Okay, so that's basic shapes here. So starting to make our floor plan, we want to make a box. In my case, that is 13 foot 6 wide by 16 foot 9 deep. And you notice here, if I want to measure anything or dimension, I can hit T for tape or tape measure. I can also click on it at the top or the side of your screen. So T for tape measure. I click on the edge I want to start pulling from, the same way as you would with your measuring tape. Pull over towards the right here, and it snaps. So it says in this case to the outside face, and it's 13 foot 6. I hit T again and it starts it again, and I click on the back side and I pull up, and I've got 16 foot 9. If I can't see very well and I need a different angle, I can always orbit around and basically model around my image here. And I do that by hitting O for orbit. So O for orbit, and I can click and then pull. This is the only really time you're going to click and hold your mouse down. For every other command, drawing a rectangle, it's click, pull, click. I'm not holding my finger down on the mouse. When I'm orbiting, I hit O, click, and I'm going to pull down that left mouse button. And that allows me to pan around. Okay, so I had 13 foot 6 this way. T again, and I come up and I've got 16 foot 9. So I'm going to start with a rectangle. That is, if you notice, as I pull that rectangle over, if I look at the bottom of the screen, the first dimension is the width and the second dimension is the depth. So I had 13 15 foot sign, comma, 16 foot sign, 9, enter. And I get a rectangle. Now, worth mentioning here, SketchUp, when it draws a surface, draws the elements initially as separate pieces. So we have the actual texture surface itself, and then each of the 4 lines that bound this surface are all separate. So if I delete one of the lines, it now deletes that line, and because it's uncontained, it deletes the surface, but it leaves the other 3 boundaries. If I delete the surface in the middle, it leaves those 4 same boundaries. So if I want to do anything further, it's really important that I group these objects. Otherwise, SketchUp doesn't know I want them to stay together. So I want to click once that selects the surface, click twice, so double click, and it does the surface and the edges bounding that surface. And I want to make those into a group. So I'm going to go right click and make group. Okay. So now when I move that around, so M, and move it around, it all sticks together. Okay, that's the basics of our little floor plan here. So we have a rectangle here. I want to give my exterior walls some thickness. So to do that, I'm going to use, well, I can do it 2 ways. I could simply click into this object that I've made, or this group. I could hit T for tape measure, and I have exterior walls that are 9 inches deep. So I'm going to click and pull over, and I could hit 9, enter. I could click at the top and pull down, 9, enter. I could go on this side and then guess what, 9, enter. And the bottom, 9, enter. So 9, enter. Hit rectangle, click on the intersection, pull up and over, and snap to that line. And then click out of that group to exit. So now I have a group here with sort of interior floor, this exterior boundary out here. So that can be a bit time consuming on large projects. So let's go back to where we were. So I've got my little box here. I'm going to double click into it. So now I'm inside my group. I'm going to hit F for offset. And I'm going to just pull over to one of these lines, snap, and pull over. And now it's going to offset each of the edges equally. So because my exterior walls are all offset by 9 inches, I hit 9, enter. And now that does that for me. So those are my exterior walls, and let's draw some interior walls. So to do that, I'm actually going to delete this center floor because I don't need it. We're going to build a floor assembly later. So I'm going to double click into it, delete that. So now I just have this exterior group here. So I've got some partitions in here, and this one's sitting 3 feet off that outside wall, and it's running 9'5" long. So I'll use again my tape measure to use guidelines. I'll hit T for tape. I'll pull down 9 foot sign 5, enter. I'll come off this outside wall. I can either write 36, enter, or I can write 3 foot sign. So whichever one you want. So 3 foot sign. And my interior partitions are 2x4 with 1/2 inch drywall 2 sides. So that's 4.5 inches. So I'm going to offset 4.5, or I could write 4 space 1/2. So either way, you can do the fraction or you can do the decimal. So that's my first wall there, sort of laid out where the plate would go. And my second one, this is a little closet here at the entry, is 2 feet 11 off that outside wall. So I can come in here again, click on the outside, pull over. So T, pull down, 2 foot 11, enter, and then offset that 4.5 inches. Now, the cool thing about this is because we've grouped our outside wall, SketchUp knows that's a group. If I draw a new wall inside, so I'm going to actually snap rectangles to my guidelines because I've set these guidelines up. So I can snap from top left to bottom right, and I can do top left to bottom right over here, and same thing here, top left to bottom right. And if you find this angle a bit skewed, if you go to the views, you can click on top menu, top here, and it's going to give you an orthographic projection looking straight down. So this might be an easier angle for you to work from. So these views at the top here allow you to look isometric left. That's from the top. We have elevations. So top view allows you to work straight down here. And I can click rectangle So top left to bottom right, top left to bottom right. I'm just basically laying down those plates where my wall is going to go. So again, if I click on my outside wall, that's a group, but these are all individual because I have not grouped them yet. So to make them one continuous wall, I have to go in here and delete these unions. And I can do that by hitting E for eraser, and I click and drag, or I simply just click on the lines that I want to delete. So you can see now that with 3 separate rectangles, each surface is separate. If I were to double click and make group, just that one individual section is a group. And if I move it out of the way, the others don't go with it. So I want those to go together. Let me just put that back in there again. So I'm going to go and delete those unions because anytime I come in here, so now that's one surface. If I take a line and I bisect that surface, it now creates 2 surfaces. So lines can always bisect any group or surface you have. So there's my plate, double click, right click, make group. So now my interior partition is also its own group. And I've got one little tiny closet over here. So that is, let's go for the inside. So bottom to top, I've got 2'6", and from the right side, I've got 2'7". So from this point here, up 2'6", and I'm going to come over 2'7". So 2'7", enter. If any guidelines are in your way and they're a bit confusing, you can simply select them and hit delete. You can click and drag over them and hit delete. You can also go up to edit, delete guides, that also takes them away. So whatever works for you. So I'll just put the ones back that I need. So 2'6", and that was 2'7" from this wall. So 2'7", enter. I need to then, again, offset that tape guideline by 4.5 inches. And I'll come from this side, 4.5 inches. Hit R for rectangle. Draw in where those plates go for my bottom plates. Zoom in here and erase that union with my E for eraser. Click and drag. And then double click, right click, make group. So that's my first floor. Now, not very exciting, right? We've got exterior walls and we want to give them some height to start to define this space. So that tool in SketchUp is called Push, and we can find that it's like a flat box with an arrow. So I could select the wall I want to push or extrude up. I hit P to push it up, mouse over, and once it finds a surface it can actually push, it kind of textures it. I can click and I can actually pull it up, and now it's going to expand and pull that surface or that plate up to the top. Now the shortcut for that instead is just select the object you want to push, hit P for push, click, and then pull up. So if I want an 8-foot ceiling for my interior, it's 8 sign, enter. In this case, the model I'm building, I think it has a ceiling of 7'10". So if you're measuring a drawing, you're certainly welcome to work from whatever the base of the plate is above the finished floor to the underside of the drywall or underside of the joist or the roof truss. So for me, I measured off the drawing, and I have 7'10". So I'm going to select the surface, hit P for push, pull up, and write 7'10", and enter. And if I can't see the inside very well, like I can't see the inside wall, I hit O for orbit, so I can actually move around my model. Maybe turn around so I can see both these walls here. Just orbit down a bit. And I want to give these interior partitions the same height. So I'm going to double click on this one to select it, hit P for push, and I can click. I can also write in 7'10", enter. Alternatively, because I have already extruded a wall beside it to the same height, I can click up and mouse over, and it's going to snap to the height of that wall. It'll offer it to me as an option. So to the outside of group, and I get it yes. The third way to pull and push to a certain height is I hit P for push. And if the height that I extruded previously, 7'10", is the same height as this one, I can simply just hit select, P for push, and then double click. and it's going to repeat that same height. So let me do that again. So if this one over here, I'm unselected, I select the group, P for push, pull it up, I write 7 $10, enter. This wall is the same, so I'm going to double click it, hit P for push, double click, and it does the same height. So you have a lot of partitions or objects to extrude to the same height. Set the first one, and then simply go around, select, hit P, and then double click, and it'll push those up the same height. So that's my first floor exterior walls. If you have a model where this looks similar, I'm just going to move a copy here. If for some reason you have objects that are not grouped, if you click on your outside walls, you want to see that a single click anywhere on that outside wall selects all of the boundaries. So you can see a blue line running around the top of my exterior wall, down the outside corners. Every surface is selected. If I select a partition that's been ungrouped, every single surface and line is separate. So this starts to build a model that is less useful and harder to manipulate. So even though it looks the same, if I want to move this partition over here because it's in the wrong space, or I want to change different color or texture or turn it off and hide it, I can do that. This one, you'll notice, because it's just connected surfaces, if I grab that edge and try and move it, SketchUp doesn't necessarily know what I want to do with it. So I can start to get really funky models and broken models. So if I ever have this, double click gives me the surface and the boundary, triple click connects every surface and boundary that is connected to that group of objects, and then right click and make group. So definitely make sure as you're building, you are certainly drawing your partitions, grouping those objects before we move on. So that's our first floor. Our second floor of our laneway suite is a bit different. It has some straight walls. So these ones for me are, again, T for tape measure. They're 9'5" tall. It has a flat section of roof and it has an angled section of roof. So we're going to build this one a little bit slower. The other thing about my laneway suite is the second floor is actually wider. So my first one was 13'6", and this one is 15'11". So it actually cantilevers off of one side. So to build that, I'm going to build another rectangle. So I'm going to click and then pull up, and I'm going to input my first dimension, which is 15'11", comma 16'9", enter. I'm going to right away, I'm going to double click that. So from here I can work from the top if that's easier for us. So I can go to top view and click top. So now working straight down. Double click, right click, make group. Double click, F for offset. Click on that outside wall, pull it in 9 inches. I can delete the floor because I don't really need that surface. So I'm just left with this outside group here. I have one interior partition here. I'll just pull a dimension for us. And that is 9'4" off that wall. So T for tape, pull down 9'4". I'm going to offset that 4.5 inches. Same as before, I'm going to draw a rectangle, R for rectangle, click and pull down, double click, make group. Okay, always, 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 always make groups. So I've got this thing happening. So I'm going to extrude this interior wall, the height of my second floor, which is in my case 9'5". So I'm going to push up 9'5", enter, and my exterior wall, double click, hit P, double click, and I get the same height. Now, this does not look like this. So my second floor of what I want to build has this angled flat portion here, and then this steeper kind of 12-12 pitch, which is 45 degrees. So the way I built this over here probably is not going to work very well. So I'm going to undo that last push-pull I had. The roof I'm building actually slopes from this straight section. So I'm going to go here and modify this group I built for the exterior wall. I'm going to double click. So I'm into the group. You can see I'm now There's a dotted line around. I can see I'm only selected that. It's grayed out the interior wall, so I'm not going to edit that. And I want to be able to turn this into two different shapes so I can just pull up the straight part. So I can bisect this surface, hit L for line, click and drag across, go to the other side, click and drag across. And now that I've drawn two lines across that boundary, it's created two surfaces, right? And this outside line, I don't really need because I'm gonna hit eraser actually. So E for eraser, and I can just get rid of this stuff. We'll draw in our new walls that are angled separately. So if I exit the group, just get rid of that little piece. So I can double click in again to select it, hit E for eraser, and get rid of that last little piece. So now I just have this outside boundary. So I'm going to give it height, double click, P for push. I can mouse up to the top to 9'5" and snap it to there. And now I need to draw in this this angled piece so I can start to build my angled dormer pieces. So we're going to build this the same way we would on site. I've got a knee wall in the front here. That for me has a height of 3'10½". And again, my total width is the same. I still want to have that total width of 16'9". So I'm going to come over here and use guidelines. So there's my angle. I'm going to hit T for tape. I'm going to push a guideline back to the outside here and then measure from that guideline down and over 16'9". So that's the outside of my second floor here. I'm going to measure back from it 9 inches because that's the width of my exterior walls. I'm going to click on my outside wall and drag down to just make a boundary around that second floor. And then set more lines inside where my exterior walls go. So now I have basically sighted where that knee wall is. So rectangle, R, bottom to top, double click, right click, make group, double click P, and I'm going to push that up. In my case to, well, I'm just going to match this height over here. So you want to input whatever height you have in your model for your knee wall. It's a little shape here. So the next step is to figure out how to draw angles. So I can hit L for line and just start connecting, surfaces and draw them over here and fill them in and, hit P and then push them over and try and make some shapes. But we want to make sure we're following our drawings. So in my building here, I have to build a 12-12 sloped roof. So 12 over 12 means 12 inches of run for 12 inches of rise. That's also a 45-degree angle. So to do that angle, I can actually click on my protractor. So your protractor is just a measuring tool. So click on protractor. I'm going to select the edge that I want to start my line from. And you'll notice that if I move this around, it changes color. So blue and red and green, and that means what axis it's going to draw in. So I want a line that is drawn like this. That's the slope of my roof. So I need to make sure the protractors allow me to measure this angle. So if I click and pull over and click a second time, it's now going to measure in the blue axis. So that is, in my case, vertical. If I click mouse around and find the red one, then it's going to draw this way. And if I hit the green axis, then it goes this way. So for me, I want the red axis because that's the right orientation for this line segment. So I'm going to get rid of that segment. And to lock it to that axis, I need to use my arrow keys. So my right arrow key locks it in the red. So I hit R for red, right click for red, and it locks it. If I hit left for green, it stays in green. I hit up, stays in blue. So I want red, I hit right for red, click, and pull across until I snap to my line, click again, and now it allows me to figure out this protractor. And now you notice in the bottom right hand corner, it no longer says distance, it says angle. So I said I want a 45-degree angle. So I write 45, enter. Now in this case, this works out perfectly. If you look at now, my intersection is right between those 2 points. So that's by happenstance. If I wanted instead we'll go to protractor again. I wanted a 25-degree roof. Then I click, oops, R for red. So protractor, R for red, click, pull up, and then I write 35, enter. So now I have a 35-degree line, and I could click on the intersection and pull down. So that works as well. So I've got my 45-degree line here that we just set. I'm going to connect those 2 points. So click down and click over. And I know that my roof segment here, my roof section itself, is 11 inches tall. So I need to figure out a way to draw a thickness of, extrude this line 11 inches. So I use my tape measure again, T for tape. You'll notice I get another color access, and that's the sort of pink or magenta. And that means it's pulling a line or reference line that is parallel to this angled line here. So if I want this to be, in my case, my roof is 11 inches thick, I find that pink axis, I write 11, enter, and I get a line that's drawn. And if I orbit around, I can see that that line I just drew is parallel to my 45-degree reference line. So that shows us where the outside of our roof is going to be. And what we want to figure out is, let's just draw this in here. My roof thickness itself is 10 3/8. So I'm going to put a box on top here. So click R for rectangle, click down and over. That fills in the top. Double click, right click, make group. Double click, push, and push that up. 10 space 3/8. That's my thickness there. And I'm kind of left with, now I can see more of my building shape here. And I'm going to fill in the rest of this roof segment. So I'm going to pull another guideline up to find the top corner of this roof intersection. I'm going to pull another reference line over to find the outside edge of it. And because all of these are groups, so group, 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 any new lines I draw, so line, and I connect this, basically this little truss here, or sort of roof rafter, it's going to close that in because it's trying to fill in to make surfaces. If I double click, right click, and make group, when I now push this over, and mouse over to that outside edge, I can see that I've created this sloped roof section. So very much like I have over here. So some cases, before you get all your walls done, you might in fact have to draw in a piece of a roof section here to determine, well, where do my walls end and start? So that's my kind of roof piece here. Now I want to fill in this missing triangle. So I'm going to edit this exterior wall on my second floor. So I'm going to double click it because I want to add to it. I don't want it to be separate. So now I'm inside that exterior wall group. I hit L for line, and I'm just going to click on these outside corners and draw in the new shape I want. Click back, and it's going to fill it in. I can click on that. I can hit P for push it in. You can't see it, but it's giving it thickness. If I orbit down, you're going to see that it's giving it thickness as we hit P. So there's my new surface that it filled in. Hit P for push, 9, enter. And we'll do the same thing on this side here. So I'm still selected in the group. L for line, click, down, down, and back. Select that new surface. Hit P for push. I'll just rotate down so you can see it. P for push. I can hit 9, or I can just mouse over and snap to that line. And I want these to be one surface. So I hit E for eraser, and just erase those connections that I don't need. So E for eraser, orbit down, come in here, E for eraser, and now those are all one piece. Okay. So my exterior actually has a dormer here. So a dormer is a kind of a bump out in that roof section to have a full height window area. And I'll just pull dimensions off of my drawing here. So I have one dormer wall that's 7 feet 10 away, and the other dormer wall that's 3 foot 5. So let me erase these guidelines here to clean this up for us. Okay. So I'm going to set a measuring tape, and I'm going to pull over off this wall, 7 foot 10. Enter. Come off of this wall, what I just measured, 3 foot 5. Enter. And then I'm going to offset those again, the thickness of that dormer wall, which is 9 inches. And then same thing here, 9 inches. Okay. And now I need a way to translate those lines so they're actually running down this angled section of my roof here. So to do that, I'll hit T again. I'm going to click on the angled section of my roof, click on the edge and pull across, and it pulls parallel to my roof line. So if I click down here and mouse down, it's going to snap to that match where that first guideline meets the outside corner. And I'll offset that one to find this one. I'm going to offset it again, mouse down, offset it again, mouse down. So if I orbit, you're going to see that those lines are in plane with that roof surface, which is what I want. And if I want to find the top of that roof segment, I can hit T, find the underside of my roof here, and then mouse over. Let's just get rid of this roof here. Let's move it out of the way. So T for tape, pull over. If I want to keep my line constrained here in the red axis, I just hit R for red, then find this line. So this is where I want to mouse to, is here. Oh, and then find the outside one right there. So looks a bit crazy, but we are building the pieces of our dormer here. So I want the other side of my roof, so which is here. T again, and find that one. Now, looks a bit confusing, looks a bit crazy, but you can see we've sort of created these little boundaries here to make our roof section. So do that again. If I want to pull a reference line over, it's hard to find this angled section here to see where it connects. And I want it to connect in line with where this angled section connects here to the outside corner. So to do that, I want to keep it in this red axis. So if I constrain my mouse to the red axis, I hit R right for red. Now, whatever I do, it always keeps the red axis. I can mouse down to what I want to intersect with, and then I can click. T for tape, pull over, R for red, mouse down, and click. So now when I kind of pivot around, you can see little shapes I'm trying to get at here. And to make it clear for you, let me just push this out of the way. So I'm going to select my object, my section of roof here, select just the outside surface, hit P for push. I'm going to push it back to where I want to start my new wall section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click L for line. I'm going to mouse down here to find my intersection. I'm going to start in this inside corner, click over to here. And I'm going to come up to the top to here. Come back to where it intersects at the building. Click, then come back down again. And guess what? It makes a surface. So let me group that. Right click, make group. Double click, P, give it thickness, 9 inches. And now you can see that those lines that we drew are defining where that wall is. So we used all these guidelines to make the framework to build this shape. So I can draw that again. L for line. I can mouse down and find where all these lines intersect. Or, what's a bit easier, is I can grab, because both sides of my dormer are the same size, I can click on the dormer. Let me get rid of these lines. So in my case, edit, delete guides. So I want 2 of these. So I want to click, And when you copy things in SketchUp, you don't simply copy them, you move and copy them. So I'm gonna hit M, and then on a Mac, it's Option. It's Control on a PC. So M is move. So if I click and drag it, it moves. If I simply just do M and then Option on a Mac, I get this move sign with a plus symbol. So now if I click and pull it over, then I have this second copy. Now I wanted the outside copy to be 3'5" from this outside corner. So set a guideline, 3'5", enter. Grab that copy, hit M for move, and I move it from its corner over here. So now I've got a exterior wall, interior wall, dormer partitions built to my 12-12 roof. And I can also finish my roof section here by selecting my roof, M, Option, so move and copy, grab it by the outside corner, move it over, double click, select the edge, P, and then push it back to the house. And I'll just grab that chunk of roof I built. So again, move, M, grab the corner, move it over. So here's our second piece here. We've got our second floor, exterior walls, knee wall, angle roof section, and we have our dormers. In our next video, we'll get into how we build our floors and roof and cut window openings.